Okay, so let's move on to session 18 since I have nothing else better to do. Okay, so in the intermediary portion, is that the right word? Whatever. In between session 17 and 18, I made a friend and I invited him to the sessions. And so joining us is Egan, a. Oh, I don't want to reveal too much, so. Anyway, I asked Phantom, the individual that plays Sickard, I told him as his deity um, that he should go to the orphanage because Sickard actually has been searching for artifacts for a while. And his deity actually told him to go to the orphanage to search for an individual that would know something about these artifacts. Kind of left it, a little bit ambiguous because we'll figure more about that later. Anyway, so he goes to meet with Egan, and Egan is the curator, or at least the manager of this orphanage, and he's a gnome. He's kind of been buried in his studies for such a long time, and so Egan goes, decides to go with Sigurd, and then they all, Egan and Sigurd, having met, go to the tavern to meet with a party. And this session starts off really interesting with Wendell and Linton, the two halflings in the group, starting off with a drinking contest. And Wendell won, but is just, absolutely toasted, I guess the wording would be. And he goes off with a woman, and Linton goes off drunk as well. So this is immediately very interesting. I'll get back to them later. But Egan and Sigurd, talk about Kurgan, who is Sigurd's deity, and why they brought, why Kurgan, excuse me, brought them together, and it's just seemingly a very perplexing moment. The fact that a deity would actually bring them together for something as silly as just finding an artifact. Um, and while they're talking about Kurgan and Sigurd, he's explaining his faith and everything. Drusa actually performs for Gergana Penka or Penska. I think it's Penka, and that's the girl that she had met at the after party, I guess you say, for the weather experiment unveiling. So she performs for her, and Gergana's like, maybe I'd like to see another performance sometime. And Drusa remembers that she has to leave town, so a little bit of a sort of heartbreak there. Anyway, everyone kind of goes to bed. Egan's kind of sitting there at the bar drinking his tea, or sitting at a nearby table, and Yanak actually goes to speak with him, make sure that he's the type of individual that would benefit the party, because he's the only one in the party that Yanak has not previously hired. Well, sort of. Um, while that's going on, Alvaro and Drusa take Gargana home. Alvaro kind of being the stone-faced man in the back, watching, making sure nothing happens to this walk home. And strangely enough, a character named Curve Bruken from the Ambrosia campaign, written by X Phantom or Frantuzler, great GM, very good friend. um, and Frank, who I don't know if I've mentioned him before. I have to mention him in Tales from the Table video. Uh, Frank is a goblin that, in another campaign, Rise of Runelords, Lamont said, your name's not Greskert, it's Frank. So, they've been tormenting him, but very refined Frank is helping a drunken Kriv in an alleyway after like a flash of light appears. So Alvaro, helps take Kriv off into an alley somewhere. It's a really interesting scene. Very a lot of questions from the players. It seemed. Anyway, so that's pretty much the night. A performance, a lot of talking and a lot of drunkenness. And speaking of that drunkenness, Wendell wakes up to the girl who's actually a goblin leaving. Now, if you don't know, Wendell is an absolute racist against goblins because of what they had done to his parents and his village. So he's just livid. So, yeah. And in the same morning, Drusa had a peeping Tom through the hole in her wall because she sleeps naked. So some shenanigans to start off the day because why not? So that day is when they decide to head out from Rotherhith and decide to name the vehicle the Emerald Driver. And there's a reasoning why, and that's because when they get inside, they were originally going to name it the Holy Diver, which is kind of a household thing that we that we always do for ships. In fact, we played Edge of the Empire, and our HWK 290 was called the Holy Diver, just because. And but I don't know if you would remember. I certainly do. A character named Griffin who had become the Emerald Wyvern. Well, his AI, very standard, was implemented in the vehicle. So he's essentially the radio and the dummy lights and heads-up display and all that stuff for the vehicle. So they decided to name it the Emerald Driver because it kind of adds like an anime kind of feel, I guess. I don't know. It fits with Holy Diver, and it takes the name Emerald Wyvern. So Emerald Driver it was. And yeah, they decide to head out of Rotherhith toward Bosun to drop off Yannock and oh yeah, and Sigurd and Lashiste, because Sigurd had convinced Lashiste to go live at Bosun. Get some trade skills besides, bartending and all of that. So and they leave Wendell's sister because she has business there. That's the reason she came. But yeah, excuse me. That was session 18. Very a lot of things went into motion. I wouldn't say a lot of things happened, but it was interesting. So hope that was interesting for you all. And moving on to 19.